I'm George Mariner Mole, Artistic Director of the Discovery Orchestra, where we believe the more aspects we notice in music, the more pleasure we receive from listening. We teach the listening skills that help you really connect with classical music. I'd like to welcome you to this series of 2 Discovery Orchestra chats on Movement 3, Juba Dance, from the Symphony No. 1 by American composer Florence Price. Let's begin by listening to it once straight through. Florence Price was a remarkable individual who grew up in a mixed-race family. Her black father, Dr. James Smith, was a dentist, the only black dentist in Little Rock, Arkansas at the time. And her Caucasian mother, Florence Gulliver, was a music teacher who made certain that Florence's music education began early and in earnest. Florence had her first musical composition published when she was just 11 years old. She attended the New England Conservatory of Music after high school, but avoided racial stigma by saying that she was of Mexican descent, born in Puebla, rather than in her native Little Rock. Many white people today cannot imagine the issues facing black or mixed-race individuals now, let alone in the early 1900s. Florence, nevertheless, found a way to thrive in her musical studies. She also studied at the Chicago Musical College, Chicago Teachers College, University of Chicago, and the American Conservatory, also located in Chicago. Few of her contemporaries would have ever imagined that her Symphony No. 1 would have earned her first prize in a competition, let alone that she would have the distinction of being the first Black woman to have one of her compositions performed by a major professional symphony orchestra. But, in fact, Frederick Stock conducted the premiere of her Symphony No. 1 with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra in 1933. Let's begin to take a look into the third movement of her Symphony No. 1. She subtitled the movement Juba Dance. Listen to just a little bit of the opening again. We can tell it has a dance-like quality, but what exactly is a Juba dance? The Juba dance, sometimes called the hambone or the paten Juba, was brought to North America and the islands of the Caribbean by slaves from Africa. Participants stomp, but they also pat or slap other parts of the body, the chest, the cheeks, arms, and legs. American tap dance is believed to have its roots in Juba dance. Florence Price takes this dance as the basis for this movement. But how does she present it musically to us? By making use of a time-tested recipe for writing a movement of music, in this case, rondo, used frequently by composers such as Haydn and Mozart. The standard format of rondo creates what I like to call the only edible musical form. Abogada. Forgive me. In this recipe, the first idea presented, designated A, keeps returning after different musical material intervenes. Pardon my really mundane rondo example, which I will now play for you. A. B. A. C. A. D. A. Now, let's listen again to the opening of Florence Price's rondo and follow along in the listening guide. In a departure from the standard rondo recipe, in which the first statement of A is immediately followed by B, we can tell that A repeats, but does it repeat identically? And we can tell that it's different. For instance, on the repeat of A, in addition to the timpani, she specified that both a small and large African drum be softly added to the percussion. Plus, the trombones and tuba are now softly added, but perhaps the most subtle change is the addition of the two clarinets in the orchestra playing this. Listen again to A and its repeat and see if you can detect some of these subtle changes. In our next chat, we'll further investigate this third chapter of the Florence Price Symphony No. 1, which uses the rondo recipe for creating a movement of music. See you then.